Senator Carson, you should be all set.
Thank you, Aaron. Welcome and good morning. I am Senator Sharon Carson from Senate District 14. Today, we will be holding a meeting of the Senate Committee on Executive Departments and Administration. Before we get started, I'll read through a checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the right to know law. As the chair of the Senate Committee on Executive Departments and Administration, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04 and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that 1, we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously watch and/or listen to the meeting on Zoom or YouTube and via phone by following the directions and links provided on the General Court website. 2, we have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. 3, we are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remotesenate@leg.state.nh.us or call area code 603-271-6931. 4, in the event the public is unable to access the meeting, it will be adjourned and rescheduled. 5, please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. And 6, finally, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where they are and if anyone else is in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. I will call the roll. Senator Prentice.
Senator Prentice here in West Lebanon, New Hampshire, home alone.
Thank you. Senator Ricciardi.
Good morning, everyone. I am Senator Denise Ricciardi. I'm in my office at the State House, and I also have Senator Hennessy in the office.
Senator Kavanaugh.
Hello, excuse me, Kevin Kavanaugh in Florida for the week, but I'm alone in the room for the meeting.
Thank you. Senator Reagan.
Office by myself.
Thank you. And I'm Senator Carson. I am at my home in Londonderry. My daughter is in the next room, and we will go ahead and start the day. So we're going to start the day by opening the public hearing on House Bill 273 and recognize the prime sponsor, Senator Cushing. Excuse me. Did I say Senator Cushing?
Yes.
Representative Cushing.
I do not take it as an insult, Senator.
Okay. Sometimes representatives do. They just kind of go,
I appreciate the I appreciate the honor of being misaddressed as a senator instead of a rep. Good morning, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Representative Rennie Cushing. I represent Rockingham District 21, which is the town of Hampton, and I'm here in support of House Bill 273. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the last major expansion of the electorate in this country. It marks the 50th anniversary of the passage of the 26th Amendment to the US Constitution, which granted the right to vote to 18 to 21-year-olds. And at the same time in New Hampshire, it also extended the ability to hold office to 18 and 21-year-olds. And what House Bill 273 is intended to do is simply to mark that historic event and to call upon people to both to celebrate that and also to try to lift up our young people who are both voters and office holders. on May 13th, 2021, we'll celebrate the 50th anniversary of the date where the New Hampshire legislature ratified the 26th Amendment, and that's why it's a historic day for New Hampshire. I will just, by way of information, share that as a young boy or young man, I became involved in the youth franchise movement here in New Hampshire. I was part of an organization called Let Us Vote that sought to persuade our legislature at the time to lower the voting age from 21 to 18. And I will tell you, I had the experience, first time I ever spoke in the well of the House was to testify in support of a constitutional amendment to lower the voting age. It was kind of awe-inspiring to be 16 and standing at the well, because that's where the committee was holding hearings at the time. That was back in the days before the LOB existed. And when I completed my testimony, I was sure that I persuaded the lawmakers to accept my position, along with a lot of other people. Unfortunately, it lost that day, but I want to emphasize the support that we received was bipartisan. As we look back in history, we can see that it was a bipartisan support for extending the franchise. And I remember having the opportunity to go into the Speaker's office for the first time with then Speaker Cobley, who was explaining why his entire leadership was behind expanding the franchise. And that was pretty awe-inspiring. Anyways, this bill is introduced to have the state mark that. I know that there are a number of seminars that are being trying to be organized around the date by the New Hampshire Civics Foundation. I think this is an important milestone to mark, and I would ask the committee to support it, the bill.
Thank you very much, Representative Cushing. Are there any questions for Representative Cushing? Representative, I just have a question. The bill says that it's going to proclaim May 13th, 2021, which is probably about 2 weeks away. I don't know if this bill will go through by then. I mean, it won't be on the floor until May, looks like May 5th. So is that going to be an issue?
Hopefully it's not an issue. I would hope that that the committee would find this bill favorably, recommend it ought to pass, that the Senate would take it up and pass it on when it meets next, and it would go to the governor and the governor would sign it. It might be an appropriate day for the governor to sign the bill.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that,
that's
if
kind
there
of,
was something else. So, okay,
we
thank
think
you.
we think there's enough time. We think it can get done.
Okay, all right, terrific. Thank you very much for your testimony this morning.
Thank you, Senator.
Next, we're going to go to Amanda Toll.
Representative Toll, you should be
Good
able to.
morning. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Thank you so much. Honorable members of the Senate Executive Departments and Administration Committee, my name is Amanda Elizabeth Toll, and I represent Cheshire 16, which encompasses the city of Keene at large. I'm here to testify in support of HB 273 relative to the 50th anniversary of the passage of the 26th Amendment, granting the right to vote to 18 to 21-year-olds and celebrating youth voting and office holding. Young people have played a critical role in bringing about needed social change. Youth participation in electoral politics is worth celebrating and bringing attention to as we work to continue to expand access to politics for young people. I represent many young adults, as Keene State and Antioch University are located within my district, and I care about recognizing their incredible civic engagement. As a community, they contribute a great deal to our political discourse, social movement related events, and electoral process. I know the passage of this bill would uplift my young adult constituents, knowing that we value their immense contributions. And so I encourage you to please support HB 273. Thank you for hearing my testimony, and I'll defer any questions about the bill to the bill's prime sponsor, Representative Cushing, and I appreciate him bringing it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Representative. Next, we're going to go to Representative Myler.
Representative, you should be able to unmute yourself. Representative Myler, you should be able to unmute yourself. I have asked to request for him to unmute himself, but it doesn't look like he's able to.
Can you call him?
Okay. Yeah, why don't we see if we'll move on to the next person and can we call him and see if he can just do it by phone?
I'll send him an email. Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Let's go to Representative Oregon.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I'd like to join Representative Cushing and Representative Toll in saying that saying this is a good bill. Possibly could have been a resolution, but a bill is what's before you. So I think it's a good bill. It's especially important in a town like Durham, which has a large number of 18 to 20-year-old residents, primarily because we have a university there. So voting is a good lifelong habit to get into, and ages 18 to 21 are when habits are formed. So that's well, they're adults anyway, but that's one of the many reasons why we should make sure that those young adults have the right to vote, and we certainly should be encouraging them to exercise their franchise. We were discussing about the May 13th, 2021 date, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. I think you can get it passed to the governor's desk by then. Since you in the Senate, you've been fortunate that we've been somewhat envious in the House that you've been meeting by Zoom every week, and you're actually so you're staying ahead of everything. We've been meeting sporadically, as you know, at the Sportsplex in Bedford, so we haven't been able to get bills through as quickly. And I certainly no fault of Representative Cushing, who's also the Democratic caucus leader. He's been working very, very hard for every avenue he knows to create alternative to expedite the process. So this is not he did not set the legislative schedule. But anyway, you do have. I think you should be able to pass it next week and fast track it, get it to the governor's desk, and get it signed by May 13th. So I think he would welcome hopefully he would welcome the opportunity to talk about the importance of youth voting. So I urge you to pass the bill. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Representative Oregon. Are there any questions for the representative? Right, seeing none, thank you very much. Were we able to get in touch with Representative Myler?
No, he did submit written testimony.
Yes, he did.
But he's not on the call anymore either.
Okay.
It looks like
all
he
right.
completely dropped off.
Okay. Aaron, is there anyone in the waiting room who would like to speak?
Senator Carson, there's no one with their hand raised.
Okay, terrific. I am going to go ahead and close the hearing on House Bill 273. And seeing that it is 9:15, we're going to move on to the next bill, which is House Bill 345. And we'll call the prime sponsor, Representative Nurk.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can.
Okay, hi. For the record, my name is Representative Jerry Knirk. I represent Carroll County District 3. And this bill is a product of the 2019 Mushroom Foraging Commission that I chaired. It was charged to develop a system for licensing individuals who forage for wild mushrooms with the intent to sell them to restaurant suppliers or farmers markets. Now, wild harvested mushrooms are a specialty product which many restaurants like to serve and people want to buy and use at home. Without the passage of HB 345, restaurants, grocery stores, farmers markets, and farm stands will not be allowed to serve or sell wild mushrooms in New Hampshire. The reason for that is that according to the 2017 U.S. Food Code, in order for a food service establishment to either serve or sell wild harvested mushrooms in the United States, they must be approved to do so by a regulatory authority with jurisdiction over the food establishment. Now, approval requires the proper identification of the wild mushroom that's being sold or served. In New Hampshire, We do not have a program of certification and registration for the harvesting of wild mushrooms to ensure the proper identification, and that makes the sale of wild harvested mushrooms not allowed. Food establishments include restaurants, grocery stores, suppliers, and farm stands and farmers markets. It's important to note that this bill does not interfere with the harvesting of wild mushrooms for personal use. That's on your own. The difficulty with misidentified mushrooms can range from simply a mushroom that's inedible, like tough and stringy, to a mushroom that's toxic. And many of the toxic reactions are just minor gastrointestinal distress, but the toxicity can range up to kidney and liver failure and death. It's important to assure that the mushroom being sold is actually the mushroom represented and safe to eat. A restaurant that serves a dinner of inedible mushrooms or is the source of an outbreak of mushroom poisoning would sustain pretty large damage to their reputation. And an outbreak of mushroom poisoning would also be a problem because it would really harm the reputation of wild mushrooms, harming the competent foragers. And actually, they're the ones that kind of began this process. The Mushroom Foraging Commission recommended that in order to meet the U.S. Food Code, the state of New Hampshire would institute a program of certification and registration of individuals who harvest, identify, and or distribute wild mushrooms with the intent to sell them to food establishments or to private individuals as food. Now, this bill passed through the House last year, but then died a COVID death. Under HB 345, DHHS would approve an educational course for individuals who wish to harvest, identify, or distribute. The educational program would cover the identification, the harvesting, the storage, the handling, and the New Hampshire regulations and the ethics of harvesting. We designed two different certification levels. Tier 1 are the easy ones. They're the mushrooms that are easy to identify with no toxic lookalikes, and they're unlikely to cause any illness in humans. Whereas Tier 2, that's the more tough one. That includes mushrooms that are more difficult to identify, that may have toxic lookalikes, or may make a small percentage of humans ill. Purchasing by food establishments and private purchases would only be able to occur from the certified harvester or the distributor consistent with their level of certification. A registration program for certified wild mushroom harvesters, identifiers, or distributors would then be based in DHHS with an online database that's updated as new individuals certify, and a certification card would be given to each certified harvester, identifier, and or distributor. In order to let the restaurants and food service places know what's going on, public notification would be given to the restaurant suppliers, grocery stores, farm stands, farmers markets, that only certified wild mushrooms and or distributors would be allowed, I've said that wrong, certified wild mushroom harvesters and distributors or identifiers would be allowed to sell wild harvested mushrooms as food. Any other sources would be considered not an approved source and therefore not be allowed. They would also be informed as to the approved mushrooms on the list by getting some descriptions and photographs. Although again, we would expect that they want to have an identifier on their staff, they would actually take the course. DHHS would retain the responsibility for the inspection of wild harvested mushrooms in grocery stores and food service establishments, along with the authority to levy fines for non-compliance. A certified harvester or distributor who sells wild mushroom harvesters would have to generate a labeling tag for all mushrooms to allow tracking. Now, important to realize that much of this work in this program has already been done in the Mushroom Foraging Commission. We already developed the Tier 1 and Tier 2 lists. Those were compiled. The framework for the course has already been completed. And the report of the Mushroom Foraging Commission has been submitted with my testimony. You also have the testimony from Dr. Rick Vandepol. He's a trained mycologist who served on our commission but could not be here today because he's out working in the field. Bottom line is that there is a demand for wild harvested mushrooms. HB 345 will enable our wild mushroom harvesters to sell to restaurants, to grocery stores, and to farm stands. And so I urge you to pass HB 345. Thank you very much. I'll be glad to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much for your testimony this morning, Representative. Are there any questions from the committee? Representative, I do have a question, and it is on page 2, beginning on line 19, where you're talking about the labeling requirements. And you require that it holds the name, you should put on the name, address, and license number of the licensed mushroom identifier, harvester, and distributor, the species, the weight sold the day of harvesting, the county of harvesting, but should that label also include an expiration date to let people know how good those mushrooms are?
That's a very interesting question. We never actually discussed that. I would presume that it's certainly in a restaurant, or the person who's distributing in a conversation can talk about how long they last. We know they are perishable, which is why handling will be one of the things that would be taught in the course. But you're correct in the sense that a person who's just buying at a farm stand might not know that what the time frame would be or what it ought to look like. I would have no objection to putting an expiration. They're usually not official expiration dates that are, and it'll vary by mushroom, of course, too. Some mushrooms are a bit more hard. But I mean, for example, we buy from the New Hampshire Mushroom Company right across in Tamworth. That's one of the towns I represent. And when they sell them, we know how to keep them and keep them in the fridge. We're getting them fresh. They don't have expiration dates listed on their products, and they're actually a place that grows them and sells them. So I'm not quite sure. I could certainly get back to the committee by checking with well, actually, it's possible that Mr. Milligan is on the call. He is the person that runs that company, and I think it's possible that he may be on the call to testify and could answer that question.
Okay, all right, thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, Representative. I'm going to call Colleen Smith. Senator Reagan, I have to step away for a few minutes to let my daughter's nurse in. So could you take over until I get back? Thank you.
Okay, who are we up to now?
Colleen Smith. Miss Smith, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Good morning, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Colleen Smith. I am the administrator of the Food Protection Section within the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. And I'm here to speak today in support of House Bill 345, which establishes a licensing program for wild mushroom harvesters. This bill, as Representative Knirk stated, was at the request of the Wild Mushroom Foraging Study Commission, which I had served on. This commission, which included members of the Department of Agriculture, academia, and industry, worked very diligently to create a pathway that addresses public health protection for consumers seeking wild harvested mushrooms. We do have many harvesters and restaurants that are seeking a safe way to be able to offer these products to their customers. We feel the required education of the harvesters, identifiers, and distributors, the limitation of the wild mushroom species to be offered, and the requirement for record keeping by the harvester and by the food establishment as specified in the bill creates this pathway necessary to meet our food code requirements for wild harvested mushrooms. I'd be happy to take any questions that the committee has at this time.
Questions from the committee? Thank you. Who's next?
Senator Reagan. Oh, I do see Representative Bixby. Representative, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you. Am I unmuted now? Okay, so this bill originally, I just need to turn off something noisy here for a second.
Thank you.
All right. Well, okay. So this bill, the bill for the commission for harvesting initially came through our committee, House Environment and Agriculture, and we saw a really strong need for this in terms of making sure that public safety was taken care of. And I'd just like to, and then we saw the initial bill that came through that died the COVID death last year. And I just want to emphasize that our committee was very strongly behind this bill, and I think that the the amendments that have been worked out in House Environment ED&A improve the bill and really make it a very effective and relatively low burden way of regulating mushroom sales and create a real opportunity for New Hampshire harvesters. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions from the committee? Who's next to testify?
Senator Reagan, I don't see anyone else with their hand raised.
Okay. Then that will conclude the hearing. How are we doing for time?
We are 3 minutes ahead of schedule.
I have a motion for executive session by Prentice, second by Rishardi. And call the roll. Reagan, yes. Prentice,
Yes.
Rishardi,
Senator Rishardi, you're muted.
Muted.
Yes.
and Senator Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion on the mushroom bill.
Make a motion ought to pass.
I want to pass motion by Prentice. Second by
Second.
Kavanaugh. Any discussion? My only comment would be that mushrooms are produce and we don't put expiration dates on apples and bananas and oranges. So I don't know why we would want to put them on mushrooms. So with that, the motion is ought to pass. And I'll call the roll. Reagan votes yes. Prentice,
Yes.
Rishardi,
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Okay.
Make a motion on House Bill 273, ought to pass.
Who would like to take the mushroom bill out?
Prentice.
Thank you, Senator Reagan. Happy to. Prentice roll.
Okay, we have a motion ought to pass on House Bill 273 by Kavanaugh, second by Prentice. Any discussion? We'll call the roll. Reagan votes yes. Prentice,
Yes.
Rishardi,
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0. And how about House Bill 218, hawkers and peddlers?
Who would like to take out House Bill 273?
Who made the motion?
Okay, what do we got going on here?
Senator Kavanaugh made that motion.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. So just, I'm back. Just let me get caught up here. You exec 273?
Yes, and we're still on to, it's still open. If you wish to vote aye, we would.
Yes, Cameron, please have me as voting aye.
And then we can move consent.
Yep.
We'll move consent on that.
Motion by Kavanaugh.
I'll second Senator Reagan.
Okay. Madam Chair, you want to call the roll?
Sure. Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Rishardi,
Yes.
Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
and Senator Carson, yes. Is there anyone who would like to take this out? Okay, Senator Rishardi would like to. Okay,
Madam Chair, we also are 4-0 ought to pass on 130.
1:30, okay, which is, let's see.
The
Yep, that's
healthcare
fine.
Productions.
Okay, is that, I can still vote on that one?
We're still in the same executive session.
Okay. Okay, so, was a roll call vote taken on this yet?
Hold
Yes.
on what bill was that, Senator Reagan, you just said?
1:30?
1:30.
I think it was 3:45.
So 345 with the mushroom bill. We did that first. That was 4-0, ought to pass.
Okay.
Senator
the que-
Prentice wanted to take that one out.
Okay, the question I have about the mushroom bill, was the question on the expiration date answered?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, Cameron, I would like to add my vote of yes to House Bill 345.
Move consent.
Okay. So there's a motion for the consent. Is there a second?
Kavanaugh.
Senator Kavanaugh and Senator Ricciardi. Okay, is there any discussion on the consent motion? Okay, seeing none, I will call the roll. Senator Ricciardi,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
and Senator Carson, yes. Is there anyone who would like to take this one out?
Senator Prentice had volunteered when it was 4-0.
She's like, what?
I was, no, yes, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, all right.
I'm still looking.
You never
for
know what you're
1:30.
getting volunteered for. So, okay. I think at this point, we need to come out of executive session so we can move on to the next bill. Let me get my stuff put together here before we get started. I will call the roll. Senator Prentice, to come
Yes.
out of executive session.
Yeah, I say, do we need a motion?
Oh, yes, we do.
I'd be
Okay,
happy to help
so
with that motion to come out of executive session.
sounds like a plan. Thank you. Seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. I will call the roll. Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Ricciardi,
Yes.
Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
and Senator Carson, yes. Thank you all very much. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on House Bill 509 and recognize the prime sponsor, Representative Wall.
Representative Wall, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
You can. And good morning, Madam Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. I am here happily sponsoring HB 509, which is a bill that is relative to the portraits and memorial objects in the State House Legislative Office Building, the Upper Walker House, otherwise known as the State House Complex. This is a very simple bill, truly, and it's at the request of the Joint Legislative Historic Committee. It passed in the House on its committee unanimously last year and went to the House and was passed on the consent calendar. Then the COVID crisis put a halt to everything, so it's back again this year. What the committee does is have oversight on the portraits and any other artifacts that we accept or place in the State House or in the complex. Some of the examples of what we have done are, one, in the Hall of Flags, we have justified putting high-tech film over the glass plates that cover, or glass panels that cover the Civil War flags to protect them from too much light. We have authorized putting stanchions in front of those cases to protect the cases from anyone touching them. We have accepted the portrait for former House Speaker Donna Sitek, the first woman speaker, and determined where to put it. It actually took about 10 years to get it placed in the proper place. It was placed, as you may have noticed, or probably didn't, because it was under the stairway going into the Senate chambers. We have since moved it to a much better location on the other side of Reps Hall, where everyone sees it as they enter the anteroom for Reps Hall. It's out in the hallway with great light and such. We also accepted and hung up the portrait for a former House Speaker, George Roberts, who made it possible for us to have the LOB, which had been the old post office in Concord. A few years ago, one of the senators proposed that we bring the Lafayette granite posts back to the plaza at the State House. They now stand under authority of the Secretary of State at Archives. They're in deplorable condition, and in order to move those and bring them back would have really been a substantial project, and actually they're in such poor condition that restoration would have drastically altered them, so they remain where they are and where many of us feel they belong. I have a quick little story to tell you about something that is substantial that may interest you. Many years ago, sometime in the early to mid 1900s, a pair of copper plates, they're called, to make colonial money disappeared from our vault in the State House. Nobody knows how or why. They went to Connecticut, and from there we don't know exactly what happened until just a few years ago I saw a front page article on the Wall Street Journal talking about a 3-day auction in Boston of coins, antique coins, and offered by a huge Texas auction house were the copper plates that had originally been in New Hampshire. When I saw that article, I immediately went to the state archivist, who was Frank Nevers at the time, and said, hey, these belong here in New Hampshire. We don't know why they went missing or how, but we need them back. He contacted the Attorney General's office, and unfortunately, they were a little heavy-handed. We appreciate the work that they did in terms of research, finding that a teacher out in Michigan had bought them at an auction in a box of other things, not even knowing for sure what they were. Unfortunately, with the Attorney General's office contacting the owner, who was a teacher out in Michigan, the man panicked, put them in a safe deposit box, hired an attorney, and just dug in his heels and wasn't going to cooperate with us. Thankfully, after a few years, things calmed down a little bit, and we were able to be gifted those copper plates through goodwill and good luck from that teacher. Those copper plates to make colonial money are back in the hands of our state. They're in storage right now. They're important not only because they made colonial money, but the man who made them was from Exeter, and he worked directly with Paul Revere. So this is quite a unique story. It's something that this committee took a substantial role in, and I'm proud to say we have what belongs in New Hampshire here, and at some point when we determine how and when and where to display them, they will be displayed. So this committee actually has considerable work that we do, even though it doesn't appear that way. Every year there are changes in where things hang or what needs to be restored or replaced or preserved, not replaced. We have a woman who's a great artist who constantly comes in every year overlooking our portraits that we have in the State House, and any type of restoration that needs to occur, she does that and has done a fabulous job. So what we're trying to do is clarify who has the authority to do what and where. The governor has control of the second floor of the State House. We have the first and third, the LOB, and so forth. So what we're asking is that we just have it put into statute exactly who has the authority and who will do what. In the bill, it states that, that we shall do this under that the preservation and restoration and such will be under the direction of the Joint Historical Committee in consultation with the Director of the Division of Historical Resources, the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. It's something we've been doing anyway, but this just codifies it. So we're asking that you support this. It's a question that's come up from time to time, and the prime example of wondering what to do was with those Lafayette posts. Who had authority, who didn't? So that's that. We hope you will support this bill.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony, Representative. Are there any questions from the committee? Representative, I just have a quick question here. I'm looking at, lines beginning on 3, 4, 5, and 6. I don't think it's very clear that the governor controls the second floor, because I've received a phone call about that. The way that it's reading right now, it looks like the general court controls the second floor. And would this committee have control over the governor's office, what hangs outside the governor's office, the governor's welcoming room, and even the executive council chamber.
I can see why that might be confusing, because I read it over after it was drafted and wondered, but it says with the exception of those areas as defined in RSA 14:14b, Roman numeral 3, and those under this, those areas of the State House second floor under the use and control of the general court. The way that's worded is confusing. What it means is that the governor does have control of the second floor. We do not, and the general court has the control of the other floors. I wish that had been worded a little differently. It starts out by saying with the exception of those areas defined.
Okay, because I pulled up RSA 14:14b, and it's fairly small. And it just says, notwithstanding any other provision of the law to the contrary, the following shall be assigned for use by the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate. Section 1 is the legislative parking facilities. Section 2 is the legislative office building. And Section 3 says all rooms and other spaces in the basement on the first and third floors of the State House. So there is no mention of the governor and what they do on the second floor. I do think that is something that needs to be made very clear, because the federal court has, they've designated the authority, but they haven't said anything about the governor and the executive council as well.
That's a good point, Madam Chairman, because I'm sorry to interrupt you, because all it does state is the second floor, but it doesn't say the governor and the executive council. You're right.
Okay, so, all right, I just wanted to know, and I also pulled up the RSA for the Joint Legislative Historical Committee, but I think we can work with Chapter 14:14b, and we'll just have to get some language in there that'll work for designating the governor's office and their role on the second floor.
Excellent. I agree with you on that. And again, I need to add also that it was either the last term or the one before that what was it called? The New Hampshire Heritage Collections Committee, which had oversight of all other artifacts and such throughout the state. That committee was combined with the Joint Historic Committee. And some of that is in this in terms of the artifacts and this, that, and the other. Daniel Webster's birthplace, you see that in the bill. The Franklin Pierce Homestead, Hannah Dustin Monument. That's what the Heritage Collections Committee used to oversee. So I think when this was drafted, it should have been more definite in terms of the second floor, definitely the governor's territory and the executive council. The committee has always known that, but it doesn't say that in here. You're right.
Right, and I'm just wondering too, because the Secretary of State's office is on the second floor as well, if we should include them. It's been there forever. That's where it's traditionally been. So we just want to make sure that we're not overstepping the authority of the general court in these designated spaces for other entities. So
I agree with you. I agree with you fully. Excellent. And again, I'm sorry that was such a glitch in that bill. It actually isn't drafted exactly the same as it was last year. It was a lot easier last year, and I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll work with you on that if you would like me to, but otherwise I'll just hold tight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for Representative Wall? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, Representative.
Thank you.
Aaron, seeing that there is no one else who has signed up to speak, is there someone in the waiting room that would like to speak?
There's Terry Pfaff.
Okay, we'll hear from Mr. Pfaff.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Terry Pfaff. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the General Court currently, and want to weigh in positively on passage of this House Bill 509. It's a bill that was stimulated, as Representative Wall mentioned. And to clarify a portion of what you were just discussing relative to the second floor and the control of the second floor, portions of the second floor are under control of the General Court, as you know, the Senate chamber, the Senate clerk's office, the House chamber, and the House ante rooms. Those are the areas that are specifically not controlled by the executive branch. And as you know, the Secretary of State's office has been in that section forever and a day. That was done in a footnote in a budget in 1976 that authorized them to have that space. I believe it was 76. My memory may not serve me as appropriately as it should, but it was a budget issue that was plugged in the 70s that allowed them to have that space and confine that space. This bill really clarifies, as it states in the italic portions, something that's been ongoing low burn for a while about how to get things done in the State House under the general court controlled spaces. Those spaces don't have to go when we're making decisions through the Joint Legislative Historic Committee, which does a lot of good yeoman's work. And Representative Wall has been a really large part of that committee for many, many years and has done great work with the committee. The committee does have a small budget that it gets funded, and they do work, and we manage the work through this office and through the operations division to get things done, similar to the new example of all of the artifacts that are now displayed outside of room 120 on the first floor outside of the Hall of Flags. They made those decisions. We have a curatorial committee for the to establish a sequence of how those portraits are going to go on the walls. What this bill does is, previous to this bill and the hopeful passage of this bill, is that everything, if you made those decisions, you had to go to the Governor Council for a lot of these things. And when there's legislatively controlled spaces, general court controlled spaces, and we have a committee appointed by the Speaker and the President, and they are our controlled spaces, we shouldn't have to go to another branch to make those decisions. And that clarifies this. We will still consult because we work closely with our friends over on the Historical Resources Division, and always have, and they facilitate a lot of things for us sometimes from the general court perspective because of our lack of staffing here at the general court. But it's a positive bill, and I think it doesn't need much tweaking around that area if you want to clarify it. But like I said, it's already clarified in one portion of the law, and basically it exempts what control the executive branch has on that second floor. And I believe that is listed in another portion of law, and I'll have my research folks look that up for you if you'd like, Madam Chairman. But this is a bill that I'm in full support of, and I think the Historical Committee does a great job, and it really is housekeeping and cleans up the language. So I'm available for any questions or concerns you might have.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Terry. Is there any questions from the committee? Thank you. I will, Terry, I will be calling you because I think you're right. It does need some clarifying, so a little more clarification. So I will be reaching out to you, and perhaps between you, Representative Wall, and myself, we can come up with a solution.
Perfect. I'd be glad to work on an amendment with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other folks in the waiting room?
Sorry, Carson, I don't see anyone with their hand raised.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on House Bill 509. Erin, there's a person here, ASL interpreter. She's for the final bill, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on House Bill 567. Is Representative Pearson in the waiting room?
I do see Representative Mark Pearson, but I don't see Representative Stephen Pearson. But Representative Mark Pearson has his hand raised. Do you want me to let him in?
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senators. My name is Mark Pearson. I'm the prime sponsor of this bill.
Hold on, Representative Pearson. We're on House Bill 567. We haven't come to your bill yet. Your bill is House Bill 631. The question that I had was, I do not have any representatives signed up to introduce House Bill 567. And it is Representative Steve Pearson. So I think if you can just hold off, you're up next, okay?
And I am texting Stephen right now to get himself into the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Just to move things along here, I will introduce the bill in case there are members of the public who would like to weigh in on this. Good morning. Good morning, committee. For the record, my name is Sharon Carson, and I have the pleasure of representing Senate District 14. I have this morning for your consideration House Bill 567, and this bill permits certain military personnel, emergency medical technicians, and paramedics to apply for licensure as a nursing assistant. Is there anyone in the waiting room who would like to testify on this bill? Aaron.
Senator Carson, I don't see anyone with their hand raised to testify.
All right, let's wait a few moments to see if Representative Pearson calls in, because there is no one who wished to testify on this bill. Senator Prentice?
I'll unmute myself. I would be happy for the record to testify for this bill. Would that be helpful?
Sure, go ahead. That'll be fine, Senator. Thank you.
So for the record, my name is Sue Prentice. I'm the state senator from District 5. I'm also a licensed paramedic in the state of New Hampshire. So I think that, the reason, my understanding, the reason for this bill is that during, especially COVID, there were provisions put in place to allow for those that weren't licensed as nursing assistants but had comparable skills, like EMTs, members of the military who have worked as medics and in particular medical roles, and paramedics to take advantage of an executive order, and then practice in this way. So this is just formalizing that, and it makes sense because, number one, it puts military personnel who are going, especially if they're coming from active to from active duty and they're transitioning to non-active duty with their family, there's a job opportunity here for them. And we know that our nursing homes and other medical practices that use LNAs are in need, not just during COVID, but before that. So this is about comparable skills being transferred, being credentialed, and being licensed through a different, just working in a different setting and taking accountability for that. So I fully support this. I think it's smart for workforce and it's smart for healthcare. And it does a good thing for members of the military. So thank you.
So thank you very much, Senator Prentice. The only thing that I would comment on is the identification of the MOS codes for both the Army and the Air Force. Those codes change over time. So we need to be aware that whenever the Army does any kind of reorganization and they look at their skills, they will oftentimes change those codes. So we're putting these code into statute, and if this passes, at some point, people are going to have to be aware of the code changes to update the statute. Just say it. Yes, Senator Prentice.
So I think that's an excellent point. And probably what this could, it's unusual to use, language that might be considered, I don't know if proprietary is the appropriate word, but if there is a way that we could, I'd be happy to work on an amendment with the rep that sponsored this bill to just kind of neutralize that language so that it lives over time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's exactly your point. Okay, so if looks like Representative Pearson may be here, so I'll turn it back over to you, and there you go.
Thank you, Senator Prentice. Aaron, is he in the waiting room?
Representative Pearson is. I did bring
terrific.
Hello, I'm terribly sorry about a miscommunication with the calendar here.
Okay, Representative Pearson, would you like to offer us some testimony?
Well, honestly, I need to know which bill you're talking about. I apologize.
We're talking about House Bill 567, permitting certain military personnel, emergency medical technicians, and paramedics to apply for licensure as a nursing assistant.
As an LNA, yes. Okay. Fantastic. So, as you're all very much aware, the situation with LNAs is dire in New Hampshire. We've had several pieces of legislation come before our EDNA in reference to changing some standards as far as what qualifications and training for LNAs. The thing with the military designation and the EMT designation is that those training requirements for an LNA are more than met by people in the emergency medical profession and with those designations in the military. So what this basically would do is just say, you know what, we recognize that the training and background that you have is more than sufficient to meet the requirements of the LNA. This just gives you an opportunity to take the licensing exam without having to go through all of the training that is typically required to qualify you to take the LNA exam.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony, Representative. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none. Representative, I will bring up a point that I brought up with the committee. As someone who is prior service, I'm well aware of the occupational specialty codes, but those codes have changed over time, and they probably will continue to do so as the Army and the Air Force and other military services reassess the types of occupational skills that they offer. And my concern is you're taking these codes and you're putting them into statute, and people going forward, they're going to have to, or legislators are going to have to be aware that these codes could change, and this statute is going to have to be updated. And I'm wondering if there's a different way to identify these occupational specialties other than code. And Senator Prentice and I will work on that, but I just didn't know what your thoughts were on that.
Well, yeah, the intent here is to not certainly pigeonhole this into something that's extremely technical as far as the military goes. This is just at this point in time, that is where the equivalency sat. So if that language needs to be loosened up a little bit, just to not, as you said, as the military changes their designations or their numbers, we certainly don't want to be in a position where we have to, constantly readjust this in the legislature. It certainly makes sense to give it a bit of more of a broad statement than a specific classification. And that was not brought to us in the House at all as a concern. We had some military folks that had testified, and I get, I guess we just didn't think of it in that the military.
Okay.
That happens.
So absolutely.
Yeah, that happens. The other question that I had, you've only identified the Army and the Air Force, but the Marines as well as the Navy and the Coast Guard also have trained medical personnel. Is there a reason why they were left out of this?
There is absolutely no reason why they were left out.
Okay.
There was an understanding, I guess it's a misunderstanding that the codes that were used by the Army and the Air Force were also similar across the spectrum. But that, if that's not true, then there's no reason why.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions for Representative Pearson? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, Representative.
Thank you, and I apologize to the committee for my tardiness.
Thank you. Aaron, is there anyone else in the waiting room?
Senator Carson, I don't see anyone with their hand raised.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. I will go ahead and close the public hearing on House Bill 567. I believe we can go ahead and open the public hearing on House Bill 631 and recognize the prime sponsor, Representative Pearson, Representative Mark Pearson.
Before we do that, Senator Carson, I'm going to
Yeah.
share my screen with the closed captioning link
That's
in
fine.
case someone needs that.
Okay, terrific. I would also like to let the public know we currently have two interpreters for the deaf and hard of hearing, so they will be able to participate in our public hearing. Okay, Representative Mark Pearson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and Senators. My name is Mark Pearson. I represent 4 towns in South Central Rockingham County and am the chairman of the House Health, Human Services, and Elderly Affairs Committee. I work with and I chair 2 commissions in the state of New Hampshire that has to do with our deaf and hard of hearing population. This bill was written in part due to the efforts of the legislation work group of the New Hampshire Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, which I chair, and in consultation with the New Hampshire Board of Licensing for the interpreters for the deaf and hard of hearing. This bill seeks to do 6 things. 1, it conforms New Hampshire's language to the current national language in several areas of deaf and hard of hearing matters. 2, the bill adds the word deaf-blind, where the statutes speak only of the deaf and hard of hearing. We add deaf-blind. 3, regulations for licensing of sign language interpreters have been clarified and updated. 4, the disciplinary action provisions were revised to allow the board to take middle ground action so that when a sign language interpreter commits misconduct that is not so serious as to warrant the punishment of a code of conduct violation, but does warrant some action, we now have a middle ground place for remedial, not punitive action. 5, additionally, the bill stipulates that no person may present him or herself as a licensed sign language interpreter when he or she is not. Should a person do this, that individual may be charged with a Class A misdemeanor. This doesn't say that somebody cannot sign the 11 o'clock Mass at St. Stephen's Church, nor does it say that somebody may not sign in any other particular gathering. It just says one may not present self as a licensed sign language interpreter. And 6, the committee amendment simply adds another group to those consulted by the commission to provide access to interpreters, and it deletes those groups that are no longer functioning. This bill passed the House ED&A 19-0 and was adopted on a voice vote of the entire House. And that is my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Representative. Are there any questions from the committee for Representative Pearson? Representative Pearson, I received a letter from the New Hampshire Association of School Administrators, and they are not in support of the bill. And one of the questions that they ask is, why was the language changed from professional to qualified?
That was at the request of the Association of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing in the state. I forget their exact title.
Okay. It also says that the bill is not clear as to whether this exemption, it says that interpreters employed by a school district would be exempt from using qualified interpreters. However, the bill is not clear as to whether this exemption includes after-school activities such as athletics, concerts, and other fine arts presentations, or educational or informational events attended by a deaf parent? Will there be an imposition of fines if educational communities are unable to access licensed interpreters simply due to a lack of availability of qualified interpreters or the fiscal impact that the educational community must bear? Did you folks have any discussions around how schools were going to be affected by this?
Yes, we did, and we know presently that the schools are affected by this. I also chair out of 186C, the Advisory Council on the Education of Children who are deaf and hard of hearing. And we broke into 6 subcommittees attacking each of the 6 sections of what is now 186C in the law. And the whole point of this group is there are problems with providing for schools adequate sign language people. We know sometimes there are parent meetings, and it's difficult, not because the ones we have aren't good, but we don't have enough. And one of the tasks we have is, how do we make more qualified sign language people available? We are quite aware that on many instances we have to do with what we got. We have to make the best of it, and we are trying to work for that. I wish the school administrators had gotten to me, because this is the first I'm hearing of it. It didn't come to the House. It didn't come to me. And we're on this. But no, we do not see that a school will be fined for their inability to deploy somebody who is qualified. That problem is on us, not them.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your for answering my questions. Are there any further questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, Representative.
Thank
you. Aaron, I don't have anyone else who had signed up to speak. Is there anyone in the waiting room?
I don't see anyone with their hand raised.
Okay, I am going to go ahead and close the public hearing on House Bill 631. Okay, let's look at going back into executive session. We do have a number of bills that we can discuss this morning and possibly vote on. So Senator Reagan moves to go into executive session, seconded by Senator Prentice. Okay, why don't we, I was going to say I thought the interpreter was going to be here. Do you folks want to take up the bill we just heard? House Bill 631.
Move on to pass.
Okay, Senator Reagan moves ought to pass. Senator Kavanaugh seconds. Is there any discussion on the ought to pass motion? Okay, seeing none, I will call the roll. Senator Reagan?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Carson? Yes. And we know Senator Ricciardi is in another committee. So this is 4-0. Why don't we?
Senator Carson, you didn't call Senator Prentice.
Oh, I thought I did. Sorry.
Okay, I had my hand up for you. We're all good.
Senator Prentice?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we leave this open? Hopefully Senator Ricciardi can come back and we can look at putting this, allowing her to vote and to put this on the consent calendar. Let's take a look at House Bill 567. This is the permitting certain military personnel. I'd like to hold this until next week. There's some folks that I can reach out to, and I know Senator Prentice, you would like to be involved in this. Maybe we can get that. I just would hate to put those code, the skill codes in there and have them change 5 years from now, and they're going to have to go through this all over again. Let's see if we can resolve this. So I'd like to hold that one. I'd also like to hold House Bill 509, which deals with the portraits and the memorial objects. I think this really needs to get clarified as to who has control over what. I think it's very, it just needs some clarification. So I'd like to hold that one. Next, let's look at House Bill 85. I'm going to go numerically. This is relative to using Atlantic Standard Time in New Hampshire. Senator Prentice? Okay, hold on a second. Senator Prentice had her hand raised, but
I was
Senator
going to make a
Reagan.
motion.
Okay, Senator Reagan moves ought to pass. Is there a second? Okay, seeing none.
ITL.
Okay, Senator Kavanaugh moves ITL. Okay, is there any discussion on the, and seconded by Senator Prentice. Is there any discussion on the ITL motion?
This is not the first time that we've dealt with this.
Mm-hmm.
Only this time we have a great number of states who have shown their dissatisfaction with the constant clock flipping.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, as a solidarity with other states who need to press federal officials to do this, that it would be best as an ought to pass.
Okay, thank you, Senator Reagan. Is there any further discussion? Senator Prentice?
And I hear what Senator Reagan has to say, and I can appreciate that. I don't think our other New England states, because there's going to be some swing between all of them to get this done. And the concern that I brought up is that I'm concerned, well, the concern I brought up has to do with the time stamping associated, not just with, broadcast radio, but with dispatch centers and with, hospitals that are transferring patients, until everybody, I think it's a federal issue, until everybody is on the same playing field, because it's not just the New England states where these patients can travel in and out of. So I had that concern, and that's why I either re-refer or ITL, but ITL was good. Okay.
Okay. I would also like to bring up to the committee, we had testimony from Mr. Yates with Lock the Clock movement, said that Senator Marco Rubio has a bill that has been filed in Washington, D.C. that has bipartisan support and would put the whole nation on permanent daylight savings time. So the federal government is moving. There is a piece of legislation. I don't see why we need to do anything. Let's wait to see what the federal government is going to do. I mean, they're taking action. So I will join with you in the ITL motion. And I see Senator Reagan has walked away. Let's see if he comes back. I think he might.
Senator Carson, while we're waiting.
Oh, here he is.
Yep.
Okay, Senator Reagan, we do have a motion of ITL. I will call the roll. Senator Prentice?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Reagan?
No.
And Senator Carson? Yes. So that is 3-1. Senator Prentice, would you like to take this one out?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, next we have House Bill 137, which is relative to the rulemaking authority of information technology. Is there a motion?
I move ITL.
Okay, Senator Reagan moves ITL. Is there a second? Senator Prentice? Okay, we have an ITL. Is there any discussion, Senator Reagan?
Okay, I investigated this and could not get any explanation from the sponsor why they introduced this bill. And I think it's a bad move to exempt agencies from rulemaking, especially an agency that deals absolutely with every other agency.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will call the roll. Senator Prentice,
Or they're chopping down a tree in front of my house and the dog is barking, yes.
okay, Senator Kavanaugh,
I can't compete with that, but yes.
Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator Carson, yes. Okay, so it's 4-0. We will hold this one, see if, for when Senator Ricciardi comes back. Next, we have House Bill 141. This is the allowing a county to exempt its chief administration officer from compulsory participation in the retirement system.
Move on to pass.
Okay, Senator Reagan moves out to pass. Senator Prentice seconds. Okay, is there any discussion on the ought to pass motion? Okay, seeing none, I will call the roll. Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
No,
okay. Senator Kavanaugh,
No.
okay. Senator Prentice, do you have a question?
sorry, it's havoc here. My concern about this, I was actually going to make a motion to re-refer, is that there seems to be a disagreement between the municipal officials and the county officials. I mean, the municipal officials are not in support of this, and the county officials that I've had to talk some time to talk to are. So I was going to actually try to re-refer so that whatever clarification or changes needed to be made could be. It's not that I don't support this being done, but it's interesting to me that at the county and at the municipal level, they are fractured on whether to support this. And that's my only hesitation. In the city I live in, municipality, we actually did this type of exemption for our chief executive officer, our city manager. So I see the benefit, but there's a disagreement here. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Okay, I'm the only one who hasn't voted. I'm voting yes. So right now it's 2-2 and it's tied. So we're gonna have to wait to see what Senator Ricciardi wants to do. And we're quite frankly, if we get to the end of these and she's not back, we'll go ahead and we'll finalize the votes and they are gonna be what they're going to be. Next, we have House Bill 186. This is repealing certain inactive committees and revising the membership or duties of certain committees, councils, and boards. I unfortunately was not present for this hearing, though I did sit on the board, this committee that looked at all of these boards. I do have an amendment to and it is amendment number 1120S. Was that presented to the committee at the time of the public hearing?
That's the one from Commissioner Jasper, right, Senator?
Correct.
So Representative Ebel made another amendment that included that one and included other comments raised at the hearing.
Okay, because I see testimony from Representative Ebel, but I do not have an amendment from Representative Ebel with that. The only thing that I currently have is the amendment that Commissioner Jasper asked me to bring in. So why don't we hold off on this one until next week? Because I'd like to see what that amendment has to say. Next, we have House Bill 218. This is repealing RSA 320 relative to hawkers and peddlers and RSA 321 relative to itinerant vendors. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion on this?
Move on to pass.
Okay, is a motion of ought to pass? Is there a second? Okay, seeing none. Is there an alternative motion on this bill? Okay, well, we don't have to take this bill up today. We can do it next week if folks would like some more time to look at this. It's my understanding that this actually came out of House ED&A as an ITL. but it was flipped on the floor. So I'd like to investigate that a little more. Senator Prentice?
That was, thank you, Madam Chair. I was looking at the sign-in sheet and the hearing report, and there's a lot of opposition to this.
Yeah,
we've got to, again, we've got to figure. I'd be happy to help you investigate this. I want to know I want to get clarity on it. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. We can definitely do that. We have, and the next is House Bill 302. This is, relative to the creation and use of electronic records by government agencies. Is there a motion?
This is just going digital with some forms, I think, wasn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, I'll move ought to pass.
Okay, is there a second on the ought to pass motion? Okay, seconded by Senator Prentice. Okay, is there any discussion on the ought to pass motion? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and call the roll. Senator Reagan?
Yes.
Senator Prentice?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
And Senator Carson? Yes. Okay, we'll hold off on this one to see if Senator Ricciardi comes back. Next, we have House Bill 425, which is establishing technical committees and a cyber security advisory committee in the Department of Information Technology. Okay, I will move ought to pass.
I'll second.
Okay, it's ought to pass. This is seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. Is there any discussion on the ought to pass motion? Okay, seeing none, I will call the roll. Senator Reagan?
Yes.
Senator Prentice?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
And Senator Carson? Yes. Okay, we'll hold on this one to if she comes back. And next we have House Bill 499. I would like to hold this until next week. I keep receiving a lot of information about this, and I've got to reach out to some folks to try to figure out what is the best direction to go with this. So I'd like to just hold on to this one until next week as well. Okay, seeing that Senator Ricciardi hasn't come back, and I know you folks would like to go off and have other legislative duties. We had House Bill 429. The vote was 4-0. Is there anyone who would like to take out this one? This is the Technical Committee and Cybersecurity Advisory Committee. Cameron, I will take this one out. Okay.
That was 425.
425. Next we have 302, which is where we have a 2-2 vote.
I had
oh no, at the top. Nope, I'm wrong. Sorry. This is the 4-0. I was looking at the wrong thing. So this is 4-0. Is there anyone who would like to take this one out? Senator Kavanaugh? Okay, thank you, Senator Kavanaugh. Next we have is the next one, 141, is the 2-2. Do you, what would you folks like to do? Would you like to make an alternative motion to hold this bill until next week, or what?
Can we move that we leave this open pending the vote of our missing colleague?
I'm not sure if we can do that, Senator. I see Cameron grimacing.
I can reach out if you hold for just a minute. I can call Josh and find out.
Okay, well, we'll move on.
Okay.
We'll move on, Cameron, while you make that phone call.
Well, I have to be here if you're moving on.
Okay,
I can't be on the phone.
Why don't we, I'll put the committee in recess for 10 minutes. How's that?
Okay, thank you.
Terrific. The committee will be in recess for 10 minutes.
Am I here?
Yeah, and they can hear you.
Okay. All right.
Yes, people can hear you, Senator Ricciardi. Just to get you caught up, we have exec a number of bills. We waited a little while for you. I don't know, Cameron, if she can weigh in on them.
I think because you've designated someone to take them out, we would have to reconsider that vote.
Yeah, but we are, and that's, I think we just need to move on. We do have a couple of bills that we haven't done. And we needed to get some clarification from Cam. But just so you know, we're holding House Bill 499, 218, 186, 509, and 567 until next week.
Okay.
Okay. And we have currently in front of us House Bill 141.
Okay.
We're divided 2 and 2. John and I have voted ought to pass, and Senator Prentice and Kavanaugh have voted against the ought to pass motion. So we're waiting to get your vote. I think, Cameron, did you get some clarification on that from Josh?
So I got clarification. If it comes out 2-2, the rule is it comes out without recommendation.
Okay.
Josh does not believe that there's a procedure to hold a vote pending someone else's vote.
Okay, that's fine. So we're in recess. We've probably got about another minute to go before we come back. So we have that one, which is the divided vote. We also have we have 2 other bills where we have not designated who is going to take what out. So you will be able to add your vote. One is House Bill 137. The pending motion on that is ITL 4-0. And then we have House Bill 631, which we heard this morning. We have an ought to pass motion of 4-0. So those 2, we would be more than happy to entertain your vote when we come back. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, we're just gonna wait for Senator Kavanaugh. It's hard for him. I can imagine the sun is shining out. Oh, there he is in Florida, and he's like, I want to be on the beach. We're in Florida.
Kissimmee, just outside of Atlanta.
Kissimmee.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is nice.
Before I take your question, Senator Prentice, I'm going to take us out of recess. We are still in our executive session, and Senator Prentice, you have your hand raised.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I went back and looked at my notes from 141 again, and then I looked at the letter from the Municipal Association and from the county administrators. And so the key issue is that this is focused on one county, and it wouldn't affect any municipality right now, but into the future it could. So, that's been my concern, but I think that gives us time, or them time, to work something out. So if we want to, is there a way to call to reconsider the vote? And I'll support this. And maybe we can break the tie and make this easier, or
if you would like, who made the motion on this?
The motion was made by Senator Reagan, and then I think Senator Prentice was raising her hand to ask a question, but she was recognized as the second.
Okay, I will ask Senator Reagan if he would rescind his ought to pass, and Senator Prentice, so we can allow people to reconsider their vote. Or I'll just ask, there's been a motion to reconsider the vote. I will first that motion. Is there a second to reconsider the vote?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Senator Reagan. We currently have a motion of ought to pass. And so I will go ahead and call the roll on the ought to pass motion. Okay, Senator Reagan.
Yes.
Senator Ricciardi.
Yes.
Senator Prentice.
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh.
No.
Okay, and Senator Carson, yes. So that is 4-1. I will take this one to the floor. Okay, Senator
That was to
Rashad.
reconsider the vote.
Oh, to reconsider. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that's right. That's the reconsideration.
I
I'm
had that
getting
wrong
it.
too then. I would,
So we have to
vote yes
reconsider
to
the
reconsider, sorry.
reconsideration.
Sorry.
Okay,
I would yes to
so,
reconsider too. Thank you,
You
John.
voted, you voted to reconsider.
right, and you said no, but that's okay. We have 4-1.
Okay,
The
okay.
reconsideration passes.
Okay.
Okay, so now we have an ought to pass motion on House Bill 141. So I will go ahead and call the roll. Senator Ricciardi,
Yes.
Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
No.
okay, and Senator Carson, yes. Okay, so it comes out 4-1, and I will take this one to the floor. Okay, Senator Ricciardi, next we have House Bill 137. The prevailing motion is ITL. Would you like to register your vote?
I support the motion to ITL.
Okay, so that makes it 5-0. Is there a motion for consent?
Move consent.
Okay, Senator Reagan moves consent.
Second.
Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Ricciardi. Is there any discussion on the consent motion? Okay, seeing none, I will call the roll. Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator Ricciardi,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
and Senator Carson, yes. Okay, Senator Reagan, would you like to take this one
Yeah,
out?
I would.
Okay. Okay, and next we have House Bill 631. This is a bill we heard this morning concerning the deaf and hard of hearing. And there is a motion of ought to pass. Senator Ricciardi, would you like to register your vote here?
Yes, I support the motion ought to pass.
Okay, so we have an ought to pass, which is 5-0. Is there a motion for the consent calendar?
Consent.
Moved by Senator Kavanaugh. Did you second, Senator Reagan?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so it's been seconded by Senator Reagan. Is there any discussion on the consent motion? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and call the roll. Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator Ricciardi,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh,
Yes.
and Senator Carson, yes. Is there anyone who would like to take this one out?
I'll take it.
Senator Kavanaugh? Okay, that is what we've execed today. We've done some good things today, and we do have a number of bills that we are holding. And again, I'd like to go over those. 499, 218, 186, 509, and 567. And we will take those up next week. And we have 3 bills left that we will hear next week. And once we complete the rest of that work, all of our work for the ED&A committee will be done. So thank you all very much. I will also reach out to the Senate President concerning the bill naming the 50th anniversary for the passage of the 26th Amendment and see what we can do to fast track that through. I mean, it will be on the floor next week, but once we vote on it, let's see if we can get it right to the governor's desk as soon as possible. And hopefully he'll be able to sign the bill on the 13th of May. So that being said, is there a motion to adjourn for today? Moved by Senator Prentice, seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. I will go ahead and call the roll. I will also note that Senator Reagan has left. So Senator Ricciardi?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Prentice?
Yes.
And Senator Carson? Yes. Thank you all for your work this morning. Many thanks to Cameron and to Aaron for your work in assisting us today. And Kevin, we're sending you our best. Don't get sunburned.
I will.
Just
Thank you.
have fun in the sun.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll see you